Hello, good morning friends. Welcome back to your favorite channel Code One Digest. Today in this tutorial, I am going to cover a third chapter on object type and enum. Yes friends, so in this tutorial, I'll teach you what is object type, how to define object, how to initialize object, and how to use that in our programming in TypeScript. And then we'll also learn how to define and initialize enum, how to use enum, what is the use of enum, right friends? So stay tuned and watch this tutorial till end. It is going to be very informative and exciting tutorial for you, right friends, so in the previous tutorial in lesson 2, I explained you what is array, what is typed array, that is tuple, and what all special types we have in TypeScript. So if you have not seen that video, so go and watch the previous video, lesson 2, right? It is going to be very useful tutorial for you. So link is given on your screen and also given in the description section of this video. So you can go and watch the previous video. I have also created a complete playlist of TypeScript with all the lessons that I have created, starting from setting up the TypeScript project, installing TypeScript, and so on. So go and watch a complete playlist. It will be very useful for you, right friends? Okay friends, so here is the agenda of this tutorial. We are going to cover object type, how to define objects in line, and we'll also learn what are different ways to initialize object. And then how to have a optional properties in object. What are mandatory properties? What are optional properties? How to define optional properties in object. So that also we'll learn. Then we'll understand what is enum, what all different types of enum we have, how to define numeric enum and string enum, how to use it, how to initialize it, how to set custom value in enum, and so on. So we'll see all of that. So stay tuned and watch this tutorial till end. Okay friends, so now let's see the coding, and I have opened my Visual Studio Code and we'll see a lesson 3. So what I have done is I have created a new folder, lesson 3, and today we are going to cover object types and enum. So let's see those exercises. I've opened object type and let's understand what is object type. Okay, in previous video we have seen the simple primitive types and special types, right? Now in this tutorial we are going to understand what are object types, how to define it, and what is enum, how can we define and use it, right friends? So let's understand that. So the TypeScript object types represent all value that are not in primitive types. Whatever is not primitive is object type. Okay. We can define objects in two ways. Like you can define object inline with object name and then structure and then values, or you can define an interface and then you can create classes and object of that interface. So that we'll see in later exercises. Here we'll understand inline object. Okay, if you see the very first example here, I'm defining object as a constant. In this example 1, constant car, colon, bracket. So in bracket I have to give the properties of that object. So type is the name of first attribute, first property. It is of type string, then comma. Model is another attribute of type string, comma. Year is another attribute of type number, and then bracket closed. So these three properties are defining the car object, right friends? And is equals to, then curly bracket, we are initializing those properties with the value. Hence the car object will have type Toyota, model Innova, year 2000, right friends? So this is how we define. This is one of the way of defining object. And then I'm printing console.log car.type, car.model, car.year. Or we can even print console.log whole car as single object. It will print the whole object altogether. And one thing to remember here is, as we define type, model, and year, then all three attributes are mandatory. you cannot have object without any of this attribute. Okay, if you have defined three attributes for car object, then you have to initialize all three attributes for that car object. These all three attributes are mandatory attributes. Let me give you an example. Let's say if I remove this, try to initialize a car only with two attributes. Okay, it will give me error. Do you see compile time error? Property year is missing in the type, because you have defined that in the structure, but you have not initialized it, right? Hence, we have to have a value for all the attributes that we define, right, friends? So all these attributes are mandatory attributes. Now let's go to example 2, where we can define an object and then we can initialize it later. In the first example, we define and initialize the object then and there. But here in example 2, I am defining a fruit as object. Okay, object is a data type here, but it doesn't have any pre-structure attributes. So we can say fruit is object, but at that moment, I don't know what all attribute it is gonna have. So I can say fruit is an object, and then next line I'm initializing it. Fruit is equals to curly bracket name colon apple, taste colon sweet, right? So when you initialize, you have to use is equals to, not a colon. Okay, you have to use is equals to. So this is one of the way of defining the object. Now here one thing to remember is I can print the whole fruit. So it will print me the name and taste of the object fruit, but I cannot do console.log fruit dot name. It will say the name attribute is not available because fruit is of type object and object doesn't have that name attribute. We have initialized the fruit later, right? So it will say property name does not exist on type object, right? You have to remember that when you define object like this, then you cannot use the individual property of that object like this. Now let's move on to example 3, where I'm defining the object type with properties. So first I'm defining an object and its properties, and then we'll initialize it. Okay, so I'm defining an object animal. To define an object, we use colon. Let animal colon curly bracket name of the animal as a string and strength of that animal as a string, right? So this is the structure of my object. Animal object will have two attributes, name as a string, strength as a string, right? And then I'm initializing the animal object. So this animal object I'm initializing here. So while initializing, we have to use is equals to animal is equals to curly bracket name tiger, strength speed, right? So these I have initialized. Now I can print the whole animal object, and I can also print the individual property of that animal. Let's say animal dot name, right? So it will be available to me. So if I define like this, then I can use individual properties of that object, right? Now, what I'm doing is I'm playing with those three objects that I have created above. So car object, the very first constant that we have created, I'm trying to update one of the attribute value. So car.model. Now I'm changing it from Innova to Fortuner, right? And it is allowing me that absolutely fine. And then I'm printing it again. As I said, right? I'm trying to update the attribute of fruit, but it is not allowing me because fruit is of type object and taste property doesn't exist on the object, right? Hence, update operation on individual attribute is not possible for the fruit. So this will not work. So I'm commenting it. Then animal. Now I'm changing the animal dot name as a lion, and then printing the animal. So this will also work. Now let's move on to example 4. As I said, right, in very first example, all the attributes that you define are mandatory attributes. That means you cannot initialize object leaving any attributes. Hence, we have to initialize all the attributes of that object. You may have a situation where you want to use optional attributes. For that, we can have a syntax to define our optional properties. Let's see that with example. I am defining here book and then having three attributes, name as a string, author as a string, and price as a number. Now, price followed by a question mark says this is an optional attribute. So this syntax, price, question mark, attribute name, question mark. So this is saying that price is optional field. It may have value, it may not have value, right? So while initializing, I can skip this attribute and initialize the book object with name and author, right? So in the next line, if you see, I'm initializing book is equals to name, my book, and author code one digest. I have not initialized the price and it is not crying for it. Here I am printing the book and I am printing the book.name and this is absolutely working fine, right? I hope object types are clear. You can define object types in multiple ways as per your requirement. You can define it inline or you can define the structure first, how your object looks like, and then you can initialize it. Now what I'll do is I'll compile and run this code for you and we'll see the output. Now tsc object type.ts, right? I'm in the lesson 3 folder and I'm now compiling it. Let me compile. So it will create a JavaScript file. So let's see. Yes, so it has created object type.js file. Now let me run that node object type.js file. See, we have the output. We are printing the car Toyota Innova and 2000. Then I'm printing fruit, name apple, taste sweet. Then I'm printing the animal, name tiger, strength speed. Now I'm changing the model of the car. Now model has become Fortuner. Now I'm changing the name of the animal that become lion. Now defining a optional object book with name and author without price attribute. Right, friends? Friends, before we proceed in this video, I request you to subscribe this channel to grow Code One Digest family. Friends, I am creating a lot of quality videos on programming, coding concepts, design pattern and design principles, cloud and container technologies, but I'm not getting subscribers. I request you to like, share, and subscribe this channel so that I can grow our Code One Digest family. Thank you. Okay, friends. So now let's see enum, how we define and use enum in TypeScript. So I have written this code. An enum is a special class that represent a group of constant, and we cannot change the variables. The enum comes in two flavors, that is string and numeric. So we'll see the numeric one first, and by default enum will initialize the first value with 0 always and add 1 to each additional value automatically. So let's see very first example of numeric enum. I'm defining a cardinal direction and I've defined 4 items in it: north, east, south, and west. So by default, north will be 0, east will be 1, south will be 2, and west will be 3 internally. Then I'm printing the whole enum here, and then I'm printing the individual value of cardinal direction dot north. What is the value of north? So it should print me 0 here, right? And it will print all values, whole enum. Now what I'm doing is I'm taking one of the value into a variable, right? I'm defining current direction and I'm taking the cardinal direction dot east. So what value will go into current direction is, as per this, it will go 1, right? It will print 1 here, right? And then when we try to assign a string value north into that let variable, it gives me compile error, right? It is not a valid enum. Though I can do like this. Let me show you. Current direction is equals to cardinal direction dot west. This is possible because we are assigning the value from enum, but you cannot assign hardcode value like this. Okay, and then we are printing the console.log. We are printing the value of current direction again, right? So what it will print here? What is the value of s? It will be 3, right? So this is not possible, hence I am commenting it out. Now let's move to example 2. We can set the value of first numeric enum and have it auto incremented. So let's say you don't want to start your enum with 0, but you want to start your enum with predefined value 1, 2, 3, or any other value you want to 100, 101. So that you can define, okay, like this enum days. I'm defining Monday is 1, so automatically Tuesday will become 2, Wednesday 3, and so on, right? So same I am printing it here, and it will print the value accordingly, right? So we can define, we can initialize from what number I want to start my enum. That is doable. Third example is numeric enum, fully initialize. I can even assign my values to the enum. So let's say status code enum. In that I'm saying not found, my custom value, success, my custom value, accepted, my custom value, error, my custom value. So if you're defining like this, then it will not increment by 1 by default. It will take the value what we have assigned, right? So this is also another convenient way of defining an enum with our custom values. And then I'm printing it here. Now fourth, enum is of string type. We can define the string enum like direction north, south, east, west and is equals to with their respective values. North, south, east and west. Here it will not print 0, 1, 2, 3. It will print these values north, south, east and west. And even individual value like east, it will print value east. Right friends? Clear? Now what I'll do is let me run this and show you how the output looks like. Okay, I have opened the console and let us compile that first. tsc enum.ts. Yes, so it's compiling. Yes, it is done. Now let me run this node enum.js. Yeah, so see it is printing. It has printed the first enum completely with 0, 1, 2, 3 and their respective values like north, east, southwest and then 0, 1, 2, 3. These are our days enum where we initialize it from number 1 and then it is incrementing 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? And then we are able to print the individual value of Tuesday, that is 2. Then we initialize the whole enum with our custom values, that is 404, 200, 201, 500 and so on, right? So we are printing the value of accepted, that is 201. And this is our string enum and we are printing the value of east, that is small east, right friends? I hope the object type and enum is clear with you. You can play with the code, do practice it so that you can use to the syntax of object types and enums. Okay friends, so this is my GitHub repository. You can take the latest of this repository and play with it. So lesson 3 is there and all the code is available here. Enum TS and object type TS. You can download, modify it, run it and play with it. Right friends? The link of this repository is given in the description section of this video. Okay, so go download this repository and play with it. Right friends? Friends, if you like this video, so give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel for the more interesting videos. Click on the bell icon for the latest video notifications and do not forget to share this video with all your friends and colleagues. This is very useful information for students, beginners and software engineers. I am putting a lot of efforts in creating these contents. So please help me growing the Code One Digest family. Please subscribe to Code One Digest channel for the latest programming and technology related videos. Thank you.